Glad you're still here. Brookings, a non-partisan research organization, suggested that this year's United Nations General Assembly would place Africa at the center of global discussions, with African leadership playing a pivotal role in shaping the agenda, offering a key opportunity for African voices to be heard and global actions to be taken. The submission is that this year's General Assembly's topic, Leaving No One Behind, could not be more timely, as there are only 6 years left to accelerate progress on achievements of the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, especially in Africa, where only 6% of the measurable SDG targets are currently on track to meet the 2030 deadline, compared to 16% globally. Did Africa indeed take center stage? How well were key challenges articulated? Were there any actionable recommendations, importantly, with timelines? Well, let's have a conversation about this to look at the UNGA and matters arising on Africa's participation. My guest is Global Affairs Analyst, Ejike Okpa. Ejike, thank you for joining us. What were your expectations for Africa's presence at the UNGA, and did the continent's leaders meet some of them in terms of articulation of our needs?
Well, thank you. In your opening remarks, you said something about, my position on UN. My position on UN has not changed ever since I got to know about that organization and how it was formed and what they have done since 1948 when it's come to existence. I mean, in 1948, apart from Egypt, no African country was, an independent nation. So fast forward to 79 years, what has UN successfully done in Africa to be a signal of here's what they have? They haven't, they've had the longest peacekeeping force in Congo. Where is Congo? You got this crisis going on in South Sudan, and then Sudan itself. We have so many things going. You have health challenges. You even have an African, through the World Health Organization, an Ethiopian national who is head of that. You even have Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, trade organization. What has Africa gotten to it? You have had 2 Africans that have served as UN Secretary General, Boutros Ghali of Egypt, and then Kofi Annan. So they keep coming in and appeasing Africa with all this. Okay, now let's take them serious. Let's make them a center stage. Yes, Africa has always been a center stage. Africa is not a new continent. It supposedly is one of the oldest or the oldest. So, but the thing is, if the people in Africa position themselves as beggars to the nation, then that's what they're going to become, this football that have been kicked around.
Ejike, I'm sorry to interject, but I want us to maybe just wrap our conversation around what happened this time around. Of course, all organizations have their failings, and of course we have, issues with how they can be better. But I'm looking at what actually happened at the 79th Assembly. I mean, there were lots of speeches from African leaders. For instance, were there any of those speeches, maybe, that was an articulated presentation of how Africa should be in the global space, in your view?
None. I didn't hear anything. Is it from Shitima? Is it from the guy from Cameroon that was put out there? I mean, who said what actually made sense? I mean, speech is one thing, but again, what is your strategy to accomplish some of the things you mentioned in your speech? We have always been impressed. Black people have always been impressed with speech. After the speech, after the occasion, that's why even our pastors are cold swear on us, because we go over there, we feel good, and we go home where we go home to, conditions that are challenging us, but every time we rally and we go in and we hear all these things. So my point is, I didn't hear anything that said, okay, that's a difference. The difference will only come when the 54 African nations that constitute the largest number of group and nation group in that organization say, we're not going to do this anymore. This is our position. This is what we want. But we can make a demand if the sum of the parts are very weak. Nigeria is a weak thing. Nigeria is the most populous black nation, but does Nigeria even have influence? positive influence on the region that ECOWAS they are in, or if the Nigerian president, gets up to speak, does anybody, pay attention? If you look at the audience when Shitima was talking, the audience was there, maybe 20% people were still waiting. So my point is, you have to look good from inside before the outside will pay attention to you. Africa is not doing that. Instead, Russia calls them, they go. China calls them, they go. I think even Malaysia and Indonesia is planning a summit.
Well, are you actually being fair to the continent, AGK? You say we have to look from the inside first, but there is no country in the world that has it all put together. We have a war in Ukraine. The Russia you talk about, there is internal conflict there. The US is divided on a number of subjects. Yes, they are more advanced, but Africa is working through its crisis, and sometimes you cannot do it alone. What really then is the essence of global organizations? If you are hesitant about the contributions of the UN, what other organization or global gathering for global good would be of interest to you?
Well, why are you concerned about what's going on in your neighborhood when your own house is falling apart? Yeah, you talk about the World Bank. Okay, do you know the World Bank doesn't even testify in U.S. Congress? The World Bank, is America not part of the world? Is headquartered here in Washington, D.C. We don't even listen to the president of the World Bank to talk about the economy in America. Or we listen to the IMF president to talk about the economy in America. I'm just giving you an example. America created the United Nations. America is the country that has the biggest financial contribution, and they use it, when it suits them, when it's convenient for them to make these other people come in. I'm even saying of the opinion, the African leaders, when they go to the UN, they take the largest contingent people to go, entourage. Do it from the comfort of your home. What is this gathering in New York every time? And the economic impact for this period, 1 week or so they gather in New York, it runs into the tens of millions of dollars. Stay will not come in. Some of the ways for you to get respect in the world is to say, I am not going to do this. The African people, the African leaders are so comfortable acquiescing to whatever every person wants them to do. So yes, we need global organizations, but for you to join it, how many African countries were participants in the charter making of the United Nations? This is the time you go in there and demand a charter review to say, hey, this doesn't suit us. And if we don't change it, we're not going to be participating. In fact, we're not going to be showing up. Then AU should be the one that all of the African presidents should send a resolution, say, we're sending it, we're not coming. But if every opportunity that is given, everybody's hopping in an airplane and going over the world and looking like a child before their counterparts president, it doesn't look good for the image.
AGK, I'm still trying to get... I get what you're saying, though, but then again, there's an aspect of the question I asked about global convergence. We need some sort of, we can't all be an island. We can't say, oh, let's deal with our problem alone. We are not a microcosm.
America was an island. America was an island. Do you know the first time an American president left America?
In today's age, if just correct me if I'm wrong, in today's age, should we, you are not in Nigeria, but you are a Nigerian. If from what you are saying, I'm perceiving that you're saying, stay in your house and fix your problem, that means people that are in the diaspora shouldn't be in the diaspora. Is that what you're saying?
No, I left Nigeria by choice. And, the word diaspora doesn't apply to me. But what I'm saying is that if somebody has left, why are you consumed about the Nigerian who has left? You have 200 or so million Nigerians that are struggling and concerned about their daily living.
Actually, it's in reference to your position about, I'm talking about a convergence, a global convergence where we can talk about our issues because no one can be...
It has not benefited Nigeria. The convergence has not benefited Nigeria. The first African country to receive IMF bailout in 1975 was Kenya.
So what would you suggest in its place? What would you suggest?
Strengthening your whole, excuse me, again, every politics is local. I mean, when you are begging, I hate to use the word begging. When you are begging, you think everybody owe you something.
Okay, when you keep using the word begging, but climate change Climate change, is it local? Is it one place? Is it not a global thing?
There's no climate change, it's a climate condition. The sun has not changed its position. The sun is the biggest influence on climate, and it has risen from the east and set in the west. So we have had climate conditions that are no climate changes. So what you have to do again, if your house is on fire, why are you concerned about the fire in your neighborhood's house? So again, pay attention to you internally. What are the resources available to you as a country and then as a region? How many African countries are even borrowing money from each other? Do you know yen? Let me give you an example, because I'm an economics and I understand some of these global dynamics. Do you know if a Japanese have 1 million yen, they have less exchange dollars than the Kenyan who has more, or the Ghanaian who has more. But the Africans will go to Japan to go borrow. The Africans will go and localize your influence. See countries that are doing good, that are within you, and say, can we copy and paste? You can copy, but do you have the will to paste? So all this, everybody running around, you go to London, you go to Paris, you go to Washington, D.C., you go to Beijing, you go everywhere. When do you have time to focus on yourself?
Educate, it's a bit tricky for me, because this conversation was primarily about a review of what happened at the United Nations 79th Assembly. But you don't seem, no, let's be fair, let's say it as it is. You don't seem to hold much regard for such gatherings in terms of a collective resolution, any kind, for our problems. So I guess I might just go ahead.
I have watched it. I have watched the UN. I have been to the UN. A classmate of mine used to work there. I have taught at the UN. I'm just saying, from 1960 to date, 64 years. Thank God that Nigeria celebrated independence today. How independent is Nigeria?
So where are you? Where are you on the SDGs?
The SDGs are all relative. Okay, you don't have electricity, you don't have a water system. You live in Lagos. Lagos has the biggest population per state in the entire Nigeria because of the size of the population. Lagos started in 18-something. Lagos doesn't have a sewer system. Do you need the World Bank to come and tell you that? Do you need the UN to come and tell you? You have Nigerians that are engineers, health experts, but you haven't been able to do it. Each time you run around, you go to UN and you put your hands out looking at.
So what would be your suggestion for solution, Ejike? I'm sorry to keep interjecting, but it seems...
I have a solution. I can tell you proposals I have sent to every government in Nigeria since 1999, even Obasanjo. I know him. He knows me. I was going to host him in my home before COVID came in. My point is, you look at Naira in 1998, 99. A Naira, 1 million Naira was almost $12,000. Okay, now we are 25 years into democracy. Where is the Naira? These are some things that the Nigerians need to be talking about. If democracy is a panacea for economic development, by now the Naira should have been, maybe 1 million Naira should have given somebody $25,000, $35,000, but it hasn't. And then you're still running around, you're still looking for solutions from outside of yourself. When every night, there's no university in the world that Nigeria hasn't gone to and graduated maybe on top of their class. How come after that degree is handed to you, you still cannot run a smart country? They say Nigerians are smart. If you're smart, why don't you have a smart country? Every Nigerian presidency, so Obasanjo always go abroad for medical treatment, and then you still come out and say, oh, Nigerian doctors are the best. If the Nigerian doctors are the best, how come the president of Nigeria hasn't trusted any one of them or a group of them to treat them when they're sick in the country? This is a slap on the Nigerian face. You see, America is about optics. You will not see an American president go abroad for training or some other countries, but the Nigerian president, which Tinubu has taken to a different level, is every time he has a stomach ache or something, he's hopping in the plane. And people are saying, what are you doing, Mr. President?
So,
what is excellence about? What is excellent about your excellency?
You know, to be fair, you are not giving any slack to the efforts that the African leaders are putting. You don't seem to...
Tell me an example of a country that is doing well. Give me an example.
Is it not...
Give me an example.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
I said, give me an example of a country in Africa that can be a model to the other African countries.
So give us solutions then. If you are, what you were saying is presidents are not doing what they're supposed to do. Leaders are not doing what they're supposed to do. They are gathering at the UN, for instance, and you don't seem to have much interest in what they are doing there because you feel that not much has been achieved. Hold on, sir. So what would you, if you were to set an agenda for growing, for conversation, for moving the continent forward, what would that agenda look like? Who will be in the lead?
Okay, perfect. Good question. Okay, you have 54 African countries with different currencies. First of all, you have to get your monetary and physical policies right. So what you want to do, you want to collapse those currencies into regional currencies. The reason you have euro was because prior to 1999, a lot of all these European currencies were worthless. And they couldn't compete with America. So they came together and then they created euro. And today, euro is one of those four currencies. They say special drawing rights you can borrow money from in the IMF. So I'm giving you a solution. First of all, so the Economic Community of West Africa should collapse the Naira, the CD, all these other things.
You know why I'm smiling? You know why I'm smiling? You're saying this is a solution, yes? And there were conversations. Yes. We have the ECO that was talked about. What happened? Why didn't it come to pass? Because
you have weak countries each time. Because remember, you have more French-speaking West African countries than you have the English ones. So anytime France is still exporting those West African-speaking countries, so anytime you propose something, somebody from Paris come in and say, oh, you know, you have to be suspicious of the Anglo-speaking ones. So they haven't been able to be confident in to say, France, get the heck out of it. You know, France has more gold reserve than all the mining African countries that produce gold. So these are the things, these are the solutions. You have to, a president of Africa doesn't have to bow to the president of any foreign leader. You tell them, excuse my French, go to hell, we're not gonna do this anymore. You colonize us, thank God we have our own independence, this is what we gotta do. So Cameroon, Nigeria, the French-speaking collapse.
You paint a picture. I try not to be a skeptic. I'm with you in certain areas, but you paint a picture that looks like, you know, our leaders have no mind of their own.
Yes, they don't. They don't. Tell me who. Is it Tinubu? Is it the guy in Ghana?
So
name the country. Tell me who has the mind of their own, that they can stand up before their colleagues, their counterpart in the world and say, we're not going to do this. Do you know what happened to Brazil?
So, wait. Ejike, let me ask you, has there been any growth in Africa in the last 15 years that you are proud of, that you think is something worth mentioning?
Well, you know, you tell me that question. You tell me.
No, I'm asking you because you don't seem, there doesn't seem, earlier we had a conversation about AI growth and adoption in Africa. And of course, there were lots of skepticism. I'm asking you now, in the last 15 years, has there, because you seem not to see, this conversation was supposed to be about UNGA, but you shifted it, but you seem not to see anything that has grown out of any kind, even in the worst kind of leadership. There must be something. So in the past 50 years, for instance, has Africa impressed you in any way?
Well, you know, it depends. It's all relative. I'm telling you, when you measure economy, you measure economy.
No. I need you to answer that because your answer will.
Okay, but the answer you're looking for, I'm telling you, nothing has impressed me. Remember, I was in Nigeria a month or so ago, and I'm coming back again. My point is, tell me the sector. Is it the healthcare? Is it the banking? Is it infrastructure? Is it aviation? Is it manufacturing? Is it agriculture? Is it public safety? Is it national pride?
So what do we do? Because you argue for solutions. You talked about a regional currency, for instance. Who will do the work? Is it not these same people who you don't seem to have any faith on or faith in?
Let me tell you, your president doesn't have to be very smart. Your president doesn't have to be. He doesn't have to have
a contradiction. He is the leader.
Hold on a second. Remember when Nigeria was praying, we need somebody PhD to be a president. Jonathan is a homegrown PhD holder who rose from deputy governor to governor, vice president to president. No Nigerian has got that ascendancy. What did Jonathan do? What I'm saying is that the president has to be able to recruit and woo people that were called in the war room. Go read a book called
it's amazing to me when you make submissions like this, to be honest, because when you say that the leader has absolutely nothing to give, how then can you trust the judgment of this same leader picking the right people to do the right things that will impress you?
When you're president, there's no particular degree that makes you a president. The president has to be resourceful. The president said, okay, hey, I want to build roads. You're not an engineer. When America went to the moon, there was nobody who has a degree in aerospace engineering. Kennedy said we're going to the moon. And guess what? People rallied. So let Nigerian president, I wrote a letter to Tinubu. I said, Tinubu, by the time you leave office in 4 years, say, I want to build 5,000 miles of roads in Nigeria, and I want Nigerian engineers, and I want Nigerian Naira to fund it. Has he done it? No, he hasn't, because he is clueless. He doesn't understand the leadership. He got there because he thinks, oh, it's my turn to do it. I'm just saying, water resources. Tell me any city in Nigeria that has a water and sewer system. It does not exist. You have a limited capacity in Abuja, but how about other places? Everybody's not going to live in Abuja. These are things that are internal. The resources are there. The capacity is there, but you don't have any president.
If I'm to listen to you and go with you, that means we're all doomed. There is no hope. There is no. That is what you are inferring. You say in the past 15 years, nothing has been done in Africa.
Nothing has been done in Africa that grabs the attention of the world to where they say, oh, let's.
But we leave. We are all.
What?
It's amazing.
You are not doomed. You are not doomed.
No, but that is what your words are. Because if we do not have any leader at all that can do.
Tell me what it is. No, tell me. You live there. Tell me what it is that is a sparking example of a collective leadership. Name a country. Don't throw Africa together. It's a 54 or. No,
we're having a conversation about Africa, so it's not specific to one African country. And no, I've asked you about UNGA. You don't have any notable thing to say. I'm so okay. How do we go forward? You say we don't have these leaders.
How do we go forward is, first of all, internalize your strength. I say that it may be simple, but it's a harder thing to do. Internalize your strength. Put your best foot forward, like America say, or we said, even though, put it forward. Before you go there, you should have a resolution. You should go to AU and say, this is what in fact, there's one voice. Because, when people talk about Africa, Africa is not China. Africa is 54 countries. Don't be confused about this thing. I think because when people are weak, they look for strength in number. Africans are weak. That's why Nigerians should be saying, I'm a Nigerian. You don't see people, Americans say, oh, I'm talking about North America. North America includes what? Canada and Mexico. We don't even mention them. We talk about America. This is what you have to do. Get away from pushing this African agenda, because you know what? The Southern African don't think the way the Western Africans do. The Eastern Africans, everybody, even your neighbor to the north or south or west of you, don't even think the way you do. So you promote your own brand. You don't promote the automotive brand. You promote a Mercedes-Benz or BMW or whatever the case may be. Promote that.
Okay, we're out of time. We're really out of time for this conversation. I'll just have to leave it there because, to be honest, conversation topic was UNGA. We ended up talking collectively about other issues. But thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. It's always stimulating talking with you anyway. I hope our viewer was as entertained as I was, getting to talk with you and learning, different perspective. Well, thank you very much.
I appreciate the opportunity. Conversation is better than a debate or an argument. We need to have conversation. I believe in Nigeria. I was born and raised there. My ancestry is there. My father was a chief in Eastern Nigeria. I come home all the time.
Right.
I would love to be part of a solution, and that's what I'm looking for. Solution. How do we project? How do we put ourselves better so that everybody will respect us? Africa has no respect, and it's because
we'll get there someday. We will get there someday. Thank you again.